What's up? What's up? What's up?
It worked again.
Yay. Yay. Awesome.
Yay.
Wonderful. I'm so glad that that worked out very easily this time.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you both for joining me on the first live chat for Sexual Health Awareness Week. I'm Alice B. Wilder, and welcome to the Genital Electric channel, where we talk about everything from genitalia to sex and kind of everything in between. So I wanted to do these live chats this week for sexual health awareness, but also to really just like start the conversation because I feel like we really need the space for it. I have a few of these other chats lined up this week, including a chat with Michelle and Sarah, who are doing a vulva confidence workshop, as well as with the host of the Bottled Up Bitches podcast, Rihanna. And so I'm really excited to be having these conversations, and I'm most excited to be starting with the two of you. So today my guests are Claire and Kayle, and I'll let you both kind of explain what you do in your own words. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kayle, do you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, so I've been a psychotherapist for over 20 years, and I work primarily with women. And as I have been doing this for so long, I started to, at some point, just feel like that I wasn't really able to really help women as much as I felt like was possible. And then at some point through my journey of being a therapist and through my own personal journey, I had this recognition that we aren't connected with ourselves as sexual beings. And because I wasn't connected to myself as a sexual being, I hadn't even considered that as part of mental health, as what we need to discuss and connect to as women, right, as our sexuality. So then that has now become my niche. And so I'm a sex, love, and relationship coach through the Vita coaching program that Layla Martin, I don't know if anyone's familiar with her, but I primarily do female empowerment through connecting with yourself as a sexual being for women and getting reconnected with themselves sexually. And then couples, helping couples to really, because women really have a difficult time even showing up and connecting intimately. If they can't connect with themselves, it's going to affect their relationships. So
Absolutely.
being able to help them find their pleasure and their power in relationship, not just with themselves, but with their primary partner.
That's awesome. I love that. And especially from the journey that I've been on, I can absolutely understand like that need for connection with yourself to really understand the connection with your partner.
Right.
That's really cool. And Claire?
And I am an actor. I'm in the process of becoming an EFT master practitioner, emotional freedom technique, otherwise known as tapping. And I'm just sort of diving into this work. So my intention with the things that I am doing, or I've been starting to do here in Valladolid, as well as what I intend to do at the retreat with Kayle, is my work is a combination of theater games and sort of light meditations as a way to, number one, have fun and be playful. And also through being playful, connect with ourselves. So connect with our bodies, our breath, and our emotions, because in every moment that we're interacting with other people or with ourselves, there is sensations and emotions that are all just going through our body all the time. And I think having an awareness around that is really important. And I think that a lot of personal development work is seen as, and is very serious. It's serious work. You have to take it seriously. And it's really important to sit with some of the really tough things that come up. And I also really feel that we can do a lot of healing through play and through having fun. And it's maybe just subconscious healing. It's maybe lighter healing that takes place that maybe we're not even that aware of, but it just happens because we're allowing ourselves to open up, and allowing ourselves to be authentic in the moment. And so that's why I think theater games are really fun and important in that way, because we are in relationship with ourselves and other people at the same time. So yeah.
That's super cool and really interesting. And just a little bit of background. Claire and I live in the same town right now in Mexico, which is cool. And that's how we met. And we've had some conversations already about play and how that kind of informs you on your own emotions. And I think that's super important and really cool, the way that you are approaching the subject through play. Because as you said, like some of those emotions that you deal with when doing your personal work, like trudging through the murky waters of shame and like just embarrassment and all of these other icky feelings that are so hard to feel and work through, having the play on the other side to really kind of balance that, I think is a really cool way to approach it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
So I'd love to know kind of how you guys got together to create the retreat that you're putting on, and how your work kind of plays with each other in a way, because you have the play and the meditation side, and then you have the sensuality and then the sex coaching side and the sexology. So I'm curious, like, how you guys came to blend that together and kind of how you met and all of that.
Do you want to go ahead, Kayle?
Sure. So Claire and I first met at this location that we're having our current retreat at. And we met there, and we had to pair up a couple times to do little exercises. And I just felt really attracted to her as spiritually and as a friend. And I just felt like I had a soul connection with her. And so then the second retreat that we went on, we didn't ever have any contact, and she was there again. And it was like, wait, what? Like, out of all these people that were at the retreat, you and I ended up going back with different people and showing up, and there she was. And so I was like, wow, it was like my favorite person from the last retreat showed up for this one. And so we stayed friends. And I think that just in us and talking through, like, what we both wanted to kind of do, and with our medicine that we offer, it seemed to really go together, because mine is pleasure, right? But play is a part of the way in which we experience pleasure. I mean, what is play except for you enjoying yourself and embodying yourself in the moment and being able to just let go and not really have a care in the world or be self-conscious. And it's this freedom and this liberation. And so it really felt like, wow, those two things really go together very well. And we both had this desire to be able to offer that in this way, because these retreats that we had both been to had been so transformative, as well. Also because it offers this component of the ayahuasca component, which also really meshed well with what we were trying to do, which is it's helping individuals really get to the core of who they are as people, and feeling that confidence, feeling that pleasure, feeling that embodied play, right? And it's all just working together very, very well. And so we were like, let's do this.
Awesome.
Yeah, when Kayle asked me to co-host with her, and she formed it, like she told me she wanted it to be called Sensual Alchemy, and to have that intention of play and pleasure, I was like, oh, sign me up. Because as I mentioned, a lot of personal development work is really tough. And I think that we can also, there is a way to frame the really tough stuff as we can be curious about it. So it's not something that we necessarily have to view in a way of like, this is intense. Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. There can be this little part of us that's like, whoa, check this out. What am I experiencing right now? This is heavy. Let's like be curious about what's underneath that, or what can we do coming through that, right? And yeah, that, I think when Kayle mentioned it to me, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds fun.
Cool. That's really cool. Claire, can you give me like a little bit of background on EFT tapping? Because I actually don't know much about that.
Yeah, sure. So it's emotional freedom technique,
Mhm.
EFT, and it uses a bunch of different modalities, but acupressure points are the main idea behind it, I guess, and NLP. I think it's a combination of both. But there's we basically tap on different points on our face and body, and by tapping on those points, we're sending a message to our body that it's okay to relax. And so generally in our lives, we have, well, a lot of people in this day and age have sort of micro stressors. We're always under a little bit of stress, even if we maybe don't feel it. And so tapping is a way to allow our body to go into a relaxation response, even when outside conditions might not be relaxing. So from that place, we can then make decisions, or we can feel better. And from that place, make decisions or look at what is stressing us out, or what we do need to put our attention on, from a place of feeling more secure and feeling more calm and feeling at home in ourselves, I guess. And EFT can be used for what I love about it and why it's helped me, because I initially started with it for physical pain. I had lower back issues. I had chronic lower back pain for many, many years. And I originally started using it for back pain. And then through the use of that, it took a few years, but the more curious I got, because with EFT, it's kind of like peeling back the layers of an onion. So you have your specific problem, and underneath that is other stuff, and then you get to see maybe emotional blocks. And that was, in my case, what I discovered was that the pain in my lower back, yes, was muscular and was physically connected to my physical being. But I had a lot of, and I don't really know what it was. I just remember there was one moment where I was tapping on my back pain, and I was getting curious about what's underneath this, and what is it trying to tell me? What is my pain trying to tell me? And I had this huge release. I just was crying, like crying and crying and crying. And from that moment on, my back pain was probably about 75% better. And then I just had to do a little bit more maintenance, more tapping, more chiro massage, and I became sort of pain-free. And so then I started to use it for emotional stuff and for, money patterns and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for me, it's a very powerful tool.
Very cool. And thank you for explaining that, because I definitely don't know much about it. But now I feel like it seems really powerful. And I'm curious how you kind of integrate that with your meditation and play. Is that kind of like a separate thing?
It is a separate, it's kind of a completely separate thing. So I think because it's taken me years, I'm actually, I've been doing EFT for, just on myself for about 10 years. But my intention with bringing it to the retreat is to help people for just as a way of self-soothing. So if things ever become too overwhelming, there's a method that you can use that will help calm your nervous system, which not every tool works for every person or everybody. So I think the more tools you have in your tool belt, the better you are. So this is just one tool that I can teach people, just a general, the pattern, why we use it, and then it's in their hands to use it as they like to help calm themselves. And then I also, on the side, I do one-on-one tapping sessions. Like you can book a session with me, and we can go through a specific problem or concern that you have. So
cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Kayle. Yeah. I would love to know more about your experience with the Vita method and how you kind of ended up working with Layla Martin, and how that has kind of informed your work and yourself, I think, as well, like your own personal development.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised evangelical Christian, and I was like gung-ho evangelical Christian until I was like late 30s. And so I have to say that, you know, being raised in that environment, sexuality is very, very compartmentalized, and to just like basically sex when you're married. And it's really because I was in a very, very conservative background. It was like my sexuality was my husband's. He owned it, right? He decided, you know, how things went down, and really you couldn't even touch yourself without feeling like you were robbing your husband of something that was his, right? So I recognize that not everybody grows up with that in terms of if they're Christian or not, but that was my experience. And so I just had this disconnection from my body totally. And even though I was, you know, I felt like I was doing everything else right in my life, I was just dealing with a lot of anxiety and self-doubt constantly. And I couldn't really figure out what to do about it to make it better. And so when I was starting to work with couples, and I was realizing that there's a lot of sexual issues amongst couples, because I was also getting a lot of Christian couples who were in the same circumstance, who were told that when you get married, everything's going to be so fantastically amazing. And then you get married and you're like, I've been shutting down my sexuality for so long and suppressing my desires that I don't know how to enjoy sex with my husband. I was getting a lot of couples like that. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't even know myself. So then I started looking into it, and that's how I found her program. And then I took some stuff for myself, and I was giving stuff out to my clients. And I thought, this is where it's at. This is more than just like having a good sex life and having an orgasm. This is about like a whole life transformation. It's a whole different way in which you're relating to yourself, and a whole different way in which you even show up in the world, right? Like I was like mind blown at just how encompassing your sexuality is. And here I had put it to the side for so long, and it was no wonder I was dealing with all of this anxiety and insecurity, because I was really disconnected from self. So that's how I originally got into it. And then I liked it so much that I decided to get a certification and become a coach in it. Yeah, and so similarly to Claire, with the EFT, that now I use what I would call sensual energy to find, in generating that, to be able to learn how to activate that and harness that in your life, to be able to find that soothing, that comfort, that ability to ground yourself and root yourself in any moment when you start to feel dysregulated, because pleasure sends a signal to the brain that everything is great here. Everything is good. And we can relax. And when you relax, you can access your intuition, right? When you access your intuition, you can make choices for yourself that are actually more in alignment with what it is that you're needing in any given moment. And then you start to become more rooted and grounded and confident and happy and satisfied, right? So I think that the ability to harness your sexual energy, right, and utilize that for all things in life is foundational to each person. And that's why, that was one of the things why I wanted to focus on that in this particular retreat, is because it's really foundation. People come to me all the time for how can you help me either with my problem or with my anxiety or my depression, right? And it's like, really, we're always, as therapists, trying to either get you to work through your painful emotions in order to get past your trauma, to get to this new place, or, you know, connect with yourself instead of outsourcing everything to something. But you can't, because a lot of times we're walking around with all this trauma and we don't know how to deal with it. It's like we got to have all this pain that we're constantly trying to compartmentalize and suppress. And so sexual energy and sensual energy, I mean, sensual energy, I say, because it's not just sexual energy, it's pleasure of all forms that you get through all five senses. So it's why I call it sensual energy. But that allows you to find some pleasure in your body and feel safe and connected to yourself, so that you can feel the trauma, you can feel the pain, you can face the things that are difficult and overwhelming to face, because you can come back home to this place of safety and soothing and pleasure in your body at any moment that it becomes too overwhelming and that you need it. Yeah.
That sounds super powerful. And thank you for talking about that. Actually, Layla Martin is kind of how I ended up on my own self-exploration journey. And I don't even remember how I came across her. Maybe it was her YouTube videos, but she was the person who I recognized, like, oh, there's a lot more to this than just my relationship with my partner and the sex that we're having. I had never really considered my own pleasure before. And background information, I've been with my partner for like 11 years. And we met like when I was 21, and I was like so gung-ho about life, but I had never really looked internally in myself to see what kind of energy I was dealing with, and like any of the sexual repression that I had dealt with as a child as well. I didn't grow up in an evangelical home, but my dad was Catholic on one side, and my mom was like, had her own traumas and stuff that she was dealing with. So it was never a conversation that I had in my family growing up. And there wasn't really the space to understand my own body even, or have a conversation that was open without judgment. So it's really cool. I'm meeting like a lot more people who are telling me more about Layla Martin and the Veda method. So it's something I'm like, might eventually end up doing. So that's really, really cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what else I wanted to ask you guys. Oh yeah. So in the retreat, you guys are you have your separate parts kind of, but they all flow together. And I remember, Claire, you mentioned to me your Osho meditation. Are you doing that there as well?
Yeah, I will be doing the Osho meditation. That's the only meditation I do that's really powerful, and in the way that it's literally loud and super expressive. It's not sort of your typical silent meditation. So yeah, I am going to be doing that in the retreat. I'm really excited for that. That one's super powerful.
Can you give a little bit of background on the Osho meditation for the people listening, and kind of talk about how that works? Because my normal idea of meditation is that like or like something led, where it's like imagine yourself sitting on a beach with like water coming in and like that. But it sounds like this Osho meditation is a complete departure from that.
Total departure from that. So yeah, to be honest, I don't actually know a lot about Osho as a man. I know he's a very controversial figure, and I just was introduced to this meditation, and I loved it, and it was very powerful for me, and I saw it be powerful for other people. So I wanted to start guiding that and offering that to people. So I sort of separate the meditation from the man, because it can be controversial. So there's 5 parts to the meditation, 5 distinct parts with it. The whole thing takes an hour, and there's a specific set of music and like a soundtrack that goes with it. And essentially what it allows is for full vocal expression, and then also integration of so expression and a letting go of all of your emotions, whatever you've got going on, whether that looks like anger, fear, frustration, or giddiness, joy. Anything is welcome. But it's an expression with your voice. So that's sort of the most important part. And also I think why I really enjoy it, because we're using our bodies to bring up, whatever is there, whatever lives in us, and then allowing ourselves to express it physically, vocally express it. And that's incredibly loud. And for me, that's part of the fun, it's you can cry, you can scream, you can, I use it, the way I was taught was with a pillow. Not everybody uses a pillow, but I find the pillow extremely helpful. And I just love the action of like beating that damn pillow on the ground, punching it, like whatever you want to do to encourage and to just allow yourself to express freely. So that's the first sort of part of it. And then the second part is more of like a connection to self. So there's a position and a sound that connects us to our root chakra. And the idea, so it doesn't sound like a meditation, but the idea behind it is that even through all of these things, because it's very physically exhausting and it's very emotionally exhausting, we can acknowledge that there's still always this one little part of us that is separate and that can be our witness, that is our witness to everything that we're experiencing in this meditation and in life in general. And that little part of us is our higher self. And our higher self is always in safety and is always fully resourced and is always in love. And so that technically is the intention behind the Osho meditation, is to have awareness of that part. It's not always possible to have awareness of that part, but that's where the idea of the meditation comes in. So yeah.
So you're like releasing in a raw way your emotions while still being able to kind of observe yourself while releasing those emotions, correct?
Exactly. So with practice, the more you do it, the more it is possible. It's to be aware of that witness part of yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just wanted to add that the body has its own natural way of healing itself, and it does that through movement, sound, breath, energy, and mindfulness, right? And so that's what Osho's meditation incorporates, and that's why the screaming or the throwing the pillow is part of it, and so healing, because you're utilizing movement and sound and energy and mindfulness and all of that in order to naturally move these emotions that typically are stuck within us. Like I was referring to before, we have so many micro stressors daily. We have energetic blocks from things that are going on now, but also things that we've had since we were children. And so it's all stuck in our body, and our body innately wants to push that up and out. Just like when we vomit, it innately knows how to get things out of ourselves, but we suppress it because it's scary, and we also haven't been taught how to get it out. And so through something like this, where you're actively screaming and throwing the pillow and whatever, it's really doing so much to alleviate and move those energies, those stuck energies.
Very cool. Yeah, that sounds really powerful. I've just recently like almost experienced a little bit of this, but in a slightly different way, I think with sound. I had an experience with a woman who is, she uses didgeridoo to like kind of use the sound around the body and kind of connect with the chakras and like align stuff. And we were having this conversation after she had done it, and I was laying down outside, and she did the didgeridoo, and she was saying that like certain vibrations affect different chakras. And it was crazy because I had felt this like tightness right in here as she was doing it. And communication, and like I have thyroid condition, but that is always the area that gives me the most like energy blocking, I feel. And after she did it, I was like, I could feel the like tightness here or something different. And I don't know, maybe it like unblocked something, or I don't know what really, but I could definitely feel the difference in communication afterwards, being able to express myself better. So I'm definitely exploring this kind of approach to dealing with that stuff, because I've always been someone who seeks therapy, for instance, to be able to talk about my problems or like anxieties. But using the movement and like the five senses and moving through that, I think is really interesting in the way that you guys are incorporating that. So
yeah. Sound healing in general it can be really powerful, because the vibrations literally are hitting your body, and yeah, it's very powerful. And we do have some of that at the retreat too. We have a voice activation portion.
Oh, cool.
Do we have sound healing? I can't remember if we have sound healing. Voice activation for sure.
What does that look like? The voice activation?
To be honest, I'm not. So it's a practitioner that's going to be coming to the retreat center to offer it to us. So, I mean, what we've been told is that it's. I think it's going to be similar. I feel it's going to be similar to the Osho meditation, but maybe not. I mean, who knows what it's going to look like, but it's going to be a way to, like Kayle says, connect body, breath, sound awareness, all of those things that are so important to release and express. Because in our society, we're not taught that it's okay to talk about how we feel or to express how we feel. And so, yeah, we do have all of this bottled up.
Yeah, it's just like, hold it all in.
Yeah. So I think as many tools as possible in order to liberate the voice, however that looks like.
Okay, that's so interesting. I'm so curious. I really would love to join you on this retreat. It's more and more that I hear about it, it sounds really fantastic. We're hitting like 30-minute markers, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to ask you both about how the ayahuasca in the retreats has kind of affected your own journeys and how that kind of plays into the retreat that you're doing now.
Do you want to go first, Kayle? After
Yeah, I mean, I think that people, first of all, I think people are called to it, right? So if you're feeling an inkling at all, I would look at that as this must be there might be a calling. I should look into this more, right? But that's how I felt. I had first watched it on Chelsea Handler, and I thought, oh my God, that looks like I need that, right? Because it was, somebody was saying, one of her staff was saying it's like 5 years of therapy in 5 hours, and I have been traumatized. I come from a trauma upbringing, and so as a therapist, I knew that shit is hard to get rid of and to deal with and to heal, and I was still holding on to it, and I thought I want something that's gonna do 5 years of therapy in 5 hours. Who wouldn't want that? So I signed up and I went, didn't know a soul. I didn't care. I was like, I am getting healed. And I went, and it was amazing. It was like, it was like the scales of my ego just fell away. And all that was left was just who I am, like at my core. And I had actually never really met her, right? Like, because there's so much between who we truly are and what we're aware of on any given basis, right? And that's, I think, what we're all trying to really tap into all the time, and it's really difficult to do so. There's so much wounding that stands between ourselves and our core, right? There's also limiting beliefs that stand between who we are and our core. Right, there's a lot, and it's not easy to remove because of pain, but also because a lot of it is unconscious. So that's what ayahuasca does. Is it's like you are able to tap into your unconscious, and your unconscious knows everything. It knows exactly who you are. It knows exactly what direction you should go into. It knows exactly what's good for you and what's not good for you. But we just don't really have the ability to tap into it, and that's what ayahuasca, I think, does. I mean, that's what attracts me to it the most, is that it's like the straight shot into being able to see answers that are always there. And one of the messages that I got from when I was there was everything that you need is within you, is already within you. And it was like, poof, so obvious in that 1 second. And that was something that I've taken with me since, which is everything that I need for anything that I'm looking to have or to gain or to achieve or to expand into is already within me. And I tasted it because I experienced it through ayahuasca, like as opposed to just like, oh, that's something someone else is telling me, but I don't really understand it or know it, or I can't really intimately acquaint with that. But then I acquainted with that. And it did give me also a ton of like really clear next steps as to what I should do with my business, because I was feeling really like I had like 50 gazillion ideas, and I was feeling paralyzed by all my ideas. And then it was like, boom, this is going to be the name of it. This is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to focus on. And it was already there. That's the thing I think is so cool. But now I could see it, and then I had the confidence to follow it. So I thought, I want that for everybody. I want everyone to be able to access that and have it transform their lives.
Yeah, that sounds super powerful.
Yeah, for me, it was very interesting because it wasn't something that I was looking for. I'd heard about it and I had a curiosity around it, but I feel like ayahuasca found me, really, because the first retreat that I went to, I was drawn to it because of the topic. It was a sexual healing retreat, and I was like, "Ooh, that sounds cool. I probably have something to work on there." So I signed up, and then I realized afterwards that there was going to be ayahuasca offered, and I was like, "Oh, I've heard it's so, heavy and crazy and serious and scary."
Mm-hmm.
And through my conversation with the woman who was leading it, who's amazing, the main theme, I mean, sexual healing was the theme of the retreat, but she was really adamant about sovereignty and about consent. And she said to me, she's like, "You know what? You don't have to do it if you don't want to. If you're not called to do it, it's up to you." But I did have that curiosity, and the space, which is the same space that we're going to be doing our retreat at. And I think the reason why we wanted to do our retreat there was because we both felt so held and supported and safe there to try this. And so I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna try this. And yeah, I mean, through the different experiences that I had, I think number one, it was very gentle. The medicine affects me, I think, a bit differently than usually it affects people. And so for me, it was very insightful. It was not unpleasant in any way. But I still, well, no, it was unpleasant at points, but not physically. Not physically. There was a lot of emotional stuff, but I think my main takeaway, which was so beautiful, was that that I got myself, and exactly like Kayle said, I learned, or because I've always been a very strong person. I've always been a very I don't know. I've always been solid in myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think through ayahuasca, it was a learning that didn't really happen up here. It was a knowing. It became a knowing that, yeah, no matter what happens, I've got myself. And I also got the message that I'm actually strong enough to help other people with their stuff. Like, I can hold space, and I can be a channel to help other people deal with their baggage. And that felt really good to me because I am generally interested in helping other people. I'm not a therapist. I'm never going to be a therapist, but just for friends, for family, for people who I'm going to be interacting with, for example, in this retreat, like, I know I have a knowing in myself that I can hold space, and I can, without judgment, I can accept and love you through whatever the hell you're going through, right? Just as I can do that for myself, which is it was an amazingly profound takeaway for me. Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
one thing, if I could add, is that I've gotten a lot of feedback from people that they're really scared to do it because they've heard like nightmare stories about how it makes you feel. And I've done it 5 times. I've never had a nightmare experience. And the people that I've sat with, it's been a lot after doing it 5 times, they've not had it either. And I think the reason why it is not because ayahuasca doesn't have the potential to give you a nightmare experience. I think it's because the context is really important when it comes to ayahuasca, and where you do it, who you're doing it with, who's the shaman, who's holding space, how does he or she hold space. And so therefore, like, I mean, I know it's like not legal in America, but there's lots of opportunities if you're in the world to do it in America. And I just wouldn't choose to do it because it's like an in and out thing. Maybe you stay the night, but then you leave the next day, and it's just about ayahuasca. And it's not really setting you up for success when it comes to it. It is a serious psychedelic, and it needs to be administered by someone who knows how much you're going to need. And this is a female shaman who's created this beautiful oasis with her and her family in Costa Rica jungle. And she intuitively just is like, knows how much to give you, right? And so that you're never too overwhelmed. And the space she's holding, and what we're doing to prep you beforehand, during, and after is so loving and nurturing that it really makes the experience very different. So I would say, don't be scared, because I do think there's scary stories, but I that's why I think that context makes a difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think also that's a huge important part is that we're going to be there for a week, right? We're going to be there for a week, and the ceremonies, we've got 2 ceremonies in there, more at the beginning of the week, so we have time for integration afterwards. And really, to be honest, in any plant ceremony that you're doing, any plant medicine, the majority of your work is going to be afterwards. So you get the insights with the medicine, and
Okay.
we're going to be holding space. The shamana will hold space. That's going to be the experience. But then your work afterwards is the integration of your lessons. And that's something, obviously, Kayle is a therapist. She can offer that with literal sessions. But there's lots of information that we're going to be giving about how to help you integrate all of those lessons afterwards as well. Because it takes like weeks. Like I think I learned, it's 12 weeks after your last ceremony. That's when the medicine is still able to work in your body, and you're able to shift and change patterns in your life using that energy that's still in your system. So, yeah.
That's so interesting. I did not know that. So normally, I've been feeling kind of a call for it for the last couple of years, but it's never come up with the right people or in the right place. And so I've always been like, no, I'm going to wait, make sure it's the right people. I don't want to like end up in a situation where I'm not comfortable and don't feel like safe in the place that I'm doing it. But that's really, really interesting that you said that about the fact that it affects you so much after the fact. And I think actually because I would have just guessed like, oh, okay, at the end of the week we take ayahuasca together, like can you give a brief description on the layout of how like the structure of your retreat will go so that people have a better idea of it, I guess.
Yeah, so I can speak to that because I came up with our draft schedule. So we decided together because we really wanted to also add a temescal, because for me, I found that to be really helpful as a form of integration afterwards. So what our week is going to look like is we're going to have arrival day. Then the first full day, we're going to do our first ceremony that night. So basically that whole day is going to be prep for, answering questions, really making sure that people feel safe, supported, make sure they have intentions set for the first ceremony. Then we're going to have a day of rest, and we're going to do different things like the voice activation, breath work. We've got belly dancing, ecstatic dance. We've got tons of fun stuff lined up for the whole week. So it's going to have a day of rest. And then the next day after that, we're going to have our second ayahuasca ceremony, another day of rest, and then finally a temescal near the end of the week. And then we have a full day of nothing. At this point, nothing planned, but we'll have something that's going to be very, I think, very supportive, informing the integration for the very last day, and then people leave on the Saturday. So we've got a day sort of off in between the ceremonies, the 2 ayahuasca ceremonies, and finally the temescal. Yeah.
Cool.
And we've got it planned so that there's time for self-reflection, journaling. They've got beautiful massage. They've got massages that can be offered and spa services. So it's beside a beautiful river. So we've got self-reflection time planned as well as all that. Yeah.
It sounds like an incredible experience. And thank you both for sharing that with me. So we're kind of hitting almost 45 minutes. We have one question from somebody that I do want to get to. But is there anything else that you both would like to share about the retreat or the work that you do, or even sexual health and what that means to you? Any of it?
No, I just want to say thank you for inviting us to do this, to be honest, because I didn't know it was Sexual Health Awareness Week. And I think it is a really important topic, and it is something that sometimes it feels like we're not even allowed to talk about it. So thank you for doing this. I think it's important, and I hope that what we can offer in October can help to support sexual health and awareness around our sexuality and in general.
Yeah. Agreed.
Ditto.
Thank you both for joining. Seriously, I mean, we didn't even know if I was going to be able to do these chats because, as you said, we're not always allowed to talk about these things. And I got banned from Instagram live chats last week. So I'm just thankful to be able to do this right now.
But thank you for hosting.
There was one question. Kayle, did you want to add anything to the Sexual Health Awareness Week side of things?
I also did not know it's Sexual Health Awareness Week, which is a shame given that that's what I do for a living. It should be out there more as kind of I mean, it's kind of silly. But Sexual Health Awareness Week, I mean, I don't know. The only thing that comes to mind is that women should be self-pleasuring more and then celebrating and savoring the fuck out of it. So,
Yes. Yes. I think that's great.
Confidence, and it makes you feel radiant and gorgeous and attractive, right? So we should be enjoying our bodies more.
Absolutely. Preach it. Absolutely. So the one question that we had come in is from Gold Six Actual, and he wants to know if any of us have ever read the book Stealing Fire. And I never have, so I actually have no idea. No. Okay. I guess we'll check it out then.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to wrap this up. If there's anything else you'd like to add, feel free to do so. But basically, thank you for joining me on this. I'm excited to be connected with you both and to continue learning about the retreat that you're doing. I'm very excited. I think it's really wonderful. And I'm excited. I hope so. That would be really cool. Oh, the last thing I wanted to mention, because I wasn't even aware of this, but your retreat is co-ed, yes?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. I see a lot of women's retreats, but I felt like it was a really a different experience to find one that does allow for couples to join, or just in general is pretty much more inclusive. It's very cool.
Yeah, we're excited.
I think that's all I have for today. Thank you both for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. And I will connect after this, and I'll send you guys everything from this as well. So
okay.
Very cool. Last thing I'm going to say is that there are a few more chats happening this week. So if you're watching right now and you didn't get to catch the whole thing, there will be some others, and I'll also be sharing this one so that you can watch the recap. And I hope everyone has a fabulous Sexual Health Awareness Week, and enjoy the pleasure.
All right.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.